Welcome, everyone, to a new YouTube series, On the Rise, where I interview up and coming Twitch streamers so you guys can get to know them, know what they're all about, know what they play, and why you should watch them. Today, I have a good friend of mine, Shug. I've known him for a couple years and a super chill dude. So, Shug, how you doing today, man?
I'm doing very good, and I'm super happy to be here to help out with the new series. This is going to be a blast.
Yeah, I hope so, man. I've been excited, been looking forward to this for a while. So, why don't you go ahead, tell everyone who you are, what you play, and we'll go
Yeah.
from there.
So I'm Shug, as my wonderful friend Cufflick said, and I am big time RPG gamer, especially on Twitch TV. Um, I play a lot of turn-based stuff, a lot of Final Fantasy, which you guys will hear about later. I also do some speed running, and by some I mean it's all I do. For Titanfall 2, which is the opposite of what I said I usually play, but I'm also a big Smash fan. And one of the things that draws me to Smash is the movement of it, and that's actually what drew me into Titanfall. So basically, I'm out here playing anything single player that I can compete with other people in because that's all I want to play. I guess except for Smash, right? I guess except for Smash.
Well, yeah, but you find the intersection, there's the Venn diagram with you stuck in the middle of those two or three circles.
It's the movement, dude. The Venn diagram, it hits in the middle. It's just movement right in the middle. That's all I cared about.
You've played
And
Smash against me, so you know I don't understand movement at all, so I'll leave that up to you.
that's really what it's like. What it comes down to for me with a lot of stuff, though, is it's like when I'm looking for a game, the thing I'm looking for is like how natural it feels to play, how natural it feels to move. And one of the first things I notice is movement speed. So
All
that's
right.
like one of the first things I look for in a game.
All right, well, why don't we move on to how you got your start in gaming? So I know a
Yeah.
little bit about it, but I'm guessing most people don't.
Yeah. So, my like actual start in gaming goes back quite a while. I used to actually be like a really active sports dude for a lot of like my early life. But then I actually got sick and I didn't have much to do for a couple years but play video games. And then all of a sudden I got better and I came out the other side as a gamer. And that's also what like started the journey into Final Fantasy for me because I had a lot of downtime and I ended up being cyber schooled. So I had like since I had so much more time than other kids, because cyber school is a very different curriculum. Like you're not at school for 8 hours. You're probably only like you're in like discussions for two, and then you just have work to do.
I've
So
been
like I
there.
had a yeah, you know exactly what I'm talking about. So I had like a lot of extra time. So I played like that's why I started beating all the different Final Fantasy games. Um, so that was like the start of gaming for me as I got into it. And then as the years went on, a couple friends invited me over to play Fortune Street, and someone forgot the game, so I started playing Smash Brothers. And that was the start of like what would change my life as far as content and things like that would go. It was literally as simple as, oh, I forgot to bring Fortune Street, do you want to play some Melee? And then for the next that was probably like 7 or 8 years ago at this point, and since then it's been like constant playing with it. That's actually how I met Cufflick here. For a very long time I was a there's my cat, she's precious. For a very long time I was a very helpful member of the Philly PM community, and I did a lot of their organizational and tournament organizational stuff and things like that. And that's how I met a lot of people I know through Twitter, a lot of people like Cufflick, and a lot of just my communities in general. Specifically through Project M, which is a brawl mod. And I spent a couple years. This was like my first foray into like esports or content. I spent probably like 3 or 4 years being one of the like more prominent East Coast TOs for that, and it was a blast doing all that stuff. As time went on, I got an incredible opportunity to move into content creation full time. And of course, as you know, anybody who's been alive for the last 2 years knows, COVID hit about a year and a half ago, and that was like right when I started being a full time content creator. And as like awful as COVID is, that's actually it's a good time to be a streamer for those reasons because so many people were home, and it got me a great start into streaming, which is what I'm currently doing now. And moving into the streaming, I was like, well, what do I want to do? So I decided to start playing my favorite game series, which is Final Fantasy. And I've beaten Final Fantasy VIII so many times. I've done all the challenge runs you see on the internet, like low XP, no summons, whatever. And I was trying to find a way to enjoy my favorite game. So I figured let's speedrun it. Um, and that's when my like streaming journey got really, really, really interesting. I started doing runs once a week, and then all of a sudden I learned about the Final Fantasy series relay. Um, which is a event they do every year that's kind of in the vein of like your GDQs or your RPG limit breaks, where they have multiple teams do like a relay race across the entire Final Fantasy franchise. And I was given the opportunity to qualify. Never had a dream in the world that I would make it. But then I had an absolute roller coaster of 4 months where I improved my times. We managed to barely make it. And since then, it's just been a roller coaster of speed runs. We've moved into Titanfall 2, which we'll get into a little more later. But I have a really awesome Titanfall 2 tournament that we're working on right now. And it's just, I never would have thought when I started speedrunnings where we'd go, but whew, did we go there. And it's just been crazy since then. Like, so there's some more fun stories we'll share in a little while about that. But that's kind of like my start into gaming and just the trajectory it's led me to.
Well, I remember the relay for Final Fantasy. You were an alternate at the beginning, right? You were a
Yeah.
backup. And even at that point, you were grinding hard. And then I remember your announcement that, hey, I got in. I'm actually doing it. And I never thought I'd be able to see someone go from grinding that hard and step it up a level. But you did. And everyone was so hyped during the relay. And just watching, even that run for you then was a bit of a roller coaster. But that
Yeah,
was
it was
so hyped.
there's the double dino sequence, which is a sequence I'm sure you guys will get to see here. That was a first for the entire community, and it was like you hear about marathon runs and things like that. Somebody calculated it after the event, and it was like a 1 in 1,000 chance for it to have happened.
Is going to head out onto the beach and try to farm some fish fins. That's Shug got the T-Rex.
Oh,
That's amazing.
Of course, Shug.
Oh, and not the fast escape. Not the unlucky. He went.
Yeah, he unfortunately got the good luck by escaping.
God.
Darn. Oh, instant second battle. That's so unlucky.
Yeah,
That's another
very
T-Rex.
unlucky.
It's another T-Rex. Oh wow!
That's another
Me,
one.
oh my!
I've
Oh my
literally
God.
never seen that happen to anyone or myself.
I've never seen the double T-Rex.
Yep, that's a first for me. I've never seen that either.
And of course, it happened live in front of all those people, so it was an absolute blast. And yeah, it was. I was originally a backup for it, but then unfortunate circumstances led to one of the other players having to drop out. But then they got to commentate too, so it was a blast. And now the next one coming up, I'm excited to try to break my way back into it.
All right. Well, I think we'll be talking about that a little bit later. The upcoming relay it is. So we've already gone over how you started streaming. So why don't you go ahead and let everyone know what your stream is like, what they can expect, and what it has in it.
Yeah. So there's a couple like big things you're gonna see when you're in my stream. The first one is a lot of practice. I take all of my speed games very seriously. But so, I spend a lot of time working on a lot of time practicing, but because I do that stuff, I also spend a lot of time just talking with community and hanging out with them. And anybody who's been around my scene, Cuthlick is one of these people, knows that I make almost all of my decisions around like hanging out and doing things, as everyone refers to it, the homies in our community. Everyone's just the homies. And I plan a lot of my movie nights, a lot of my game nights around our European audiences, our American audiences, and really anyone we can work with. And that's because there's a lot of like really awful stuff in the world right now. Just a lot of really awful things from all over the place. And so I've tried to spend as much of my time as possible to make my stream like a healthy, safe place for people of all inclinations, all walks of life. When there's that really awful thing that everyone on the internet's talking about and you just can't look after your mental health, my mods are told to moderate chat on those days to make sure that you can come in, just watch video games, hang out with your friends, and not have to hear about the awful things going on. Our mods are very on top of discriminatory anything, conversations that have potentially dangerous paths, just to make sure that everyone who comes into our community feels very safe. Like we've done some charities for LGBTQIA plus groups. We've done some charities for some women's rights groups, things like that. We spend a lot of time talking about mental health awareness. We spend a lot of time talking about how to take care of yourself. And that means a lot to me because I'm somebody who, especially in the last couple of years of my life, has gone through some roller coasters, emotionally, mentally, things like that. And if it wasn't for my community, I never would have gotten through it. And through that process, I learned how many other people are in that like same situation where they just need a little bit of help from other people to get through it. And for that same regard, that's what the pillars that we've built our community on, is supporting each other, supporting the people who, need voices to help support them, and providing a safe place. There is one other major thing in our community. You saw me talk about it earlier, and it's pets. A massive part of the Shug community is pets, cuteness, adorableness. One of my most used emotes, in fact, I think it is my my second most used emote at this point, is the Terra Love emote. My dog's very popular. She has her own little heart emote.
Well, right when I asked that question, Star, your cat, actually walked behind you. So I'm like, all right, this is just perfect. This is lining up so well.
In the last 6 months, my cat has become the star of the stream. Who is Chug and how did he get your Twitch login? Star, come on, are you serious? I'm trying to talk to my friends, Star. I'm trying to talk to my friends. Oh my god, this cat. I'm sorry, everybody. She used to be very antisocial and has just decided, she's right behind me right now, actually. She's recently decided, come here. Oh, you gonna run away from me now? The one time you don't on my lap? There we go. Ugh. She's recently decided she wants to be a star on the stream, and so she spends a lot of time sitting on my lap or getting close to the camera. We have all kinds of fun stuff you'll see from that.
Occasionally she sabotages a Titanfall run or two.
She does. Just the other week, she actually turned my computer off mid-stream while I was doing a run because she was trying to get on my lap, and sometimes I don't let her on my lap when I'm doing runs because she gets a little unruly. But yeah, the pets are a big part of our community. It's not just my pets. There's multiple community members who have pets, and the pets channel in our Discord is one of the most used channels. So that's another big part. It's a different type of culture, but it does add a special level of love to the entire community.
I know I've spent 90% of my channel points I've earned on just giving your dog bacon balls.
It's true.
Yeah.
In fact, I think half of my channel commands are just ways to pamper my pets.
And I see nothing wrong with that.
There's absolutely not. I agree.
It's great.
And soon enough, we're going to have even more emotes and stuff for them because the cat has become a very popular member of our little stream family.
All right. So why should people watch you? We've gone over what your channel is like, but give us a little more on why we should watch.
So one of the reasons that I think people should watch me the most is that I think I bring two very special things to the table in speedrunning. One, improvement and improvement mentality. I think I have a huge leg up on a lot of my peers in the speedrunning community. And especially as somebody who, comparatively to a lot of speedrunners, is actually relatively new to the scene. I think that I have a really unique perspective of going from a low-level player to a top-level player in a very short span, to kind of experience all those emotions and know the good ways, the bad ways, and things like that to focus on things. But also because, as I mentioned earlier, I take competition very, very, very seriously. I'm very outgoing. I'm very happy. I'm very fun. Sorry, the cat is trying very hard to climb on top of me right now. I'm very passionate about what I do. So when you're seeing my runs, I'm giving constant, play-by-play conversation, kind of talking with myself in the community about my improvement, about where I'm doing, what I'm doing, how I'm doing in certain areas. And even as far as I get pretty hyped sometimes. There's pop-offs, there's yelling, there's excitement, there's predictions. So I'll interact with the chat sometimes. I'll have chat trying to decide whether, am I gonna, in Final Fantasy VIII, for example, there's a thing with fish fins that everyone who's ever watched my streams knows about. It's supposed to be only 1 in 3 times you fail, not if you're Shug. And it's a great opportunity for that interaction, and it creates more hype and a lot of excitement. For a game that's normally 8 hours long, we're having a blast the whole time. And that's exactly why you want to watch mine, is because I'll show you an 8.5 hour game that's mostly mashing, and you're going to forget it's 8.5 hours. And then when I achieve my goals, you can see the emotion and the excitement from me on it. And on top of that, you will never stop getting gassed up or, confidence boosts from me to achieve your goals. For this Titanfall 2 tournament we'll talk about later, I've actually been posting live results and streams for every single player in our community that's in it. Because I believe in them just as much as I believe in myself. And I think that's another huge benefit to hanging out with our community is, as I mentioned earlier, that support system. You're going to have every single person in that community believes you're the best at the game. Even though there's 5 of us playing it at the same time, we all believe that one person's the best. And that's how we try to treat everybody. So it's a great place for confidence. It's a great place to learn about improvement. It's a great place to learn about how to push yourself to the next level. Because I talk about those processes a lot.
Yeah, it certainly does not feel like an 8-hour game, and I've never seen a community of your size be so supportive towards one another. I mean, It's been insane. So you've mentioned that you've gone from a low mid-level player to a top-level player. So what have been your achievements so far? Do you have a standing for Titanfall 2 and Final Fantasy 8 speedrunning right now? Have you done anything special in any of those games people should know about?
Yeah, I've done a lot of really interesting, really fun stuff to go into. So I'll kind of go in the order that they've happened in my career. So the first major, or the first event, I can't even say major event, the first like event that I did, I guess it was major, was that first Final Fantasy Relay I mentioned earlier. That was what really cemented to me that I wanted to be a speedrunner forever. I couldn't even believe that I was picked as one of the people who was given the opportunity to qualify, and I never thought I would qualify, as we mentioned earlier. I narrowly made the cut, but somebody else was better than me, so I got the backup. However, the week after that event, I actually got a massive PB, and I ended up in 4th place in the Final Fantasy VIII leaderboards, which puts the legendary Connor Cordelium and Luz Belheim ahead of me, and then an incredible player named WQ who started at a similar time to myself. But it's now the highest ranked run on the current leaderboard that uses the original step count. There's a manipulation we use called step count, which allows us to manipulate when fights appear and how things happen throughout the game. There's a newer one I have not learned yet, but I will be learning very soon. But I'm actually the highest ranked person using the original step count right now, which is really cool, keeping me at 4th place for that game. My team also did win the relay that year, which is really exciting. Go Team Chocobo. Which is great. And then immediately after that, I actually had another challenge with one of my good friends, Wisely, really great content creator himself, and we made a little deal to speedrun Titanfall 2 against each other in a race. And I had been at that point playing Final Fantasy VIII for like as a full-time job for about like 7-8 months straight every day. And I was like, I can use a break from this game. It might be my favorite game ever, but anybody, looping it that long is going to need a little bit of a break. So I hopped over to Titanfall, spent like 2 months practicing that game. I got to race with one of my good friends, and I won that one, which kind of got me to go and take the game a little more seriously. And I went to learn the game in full, and I spent roughly 5 months getting myself into position to become better at that game before switching back to Final Fantasy VIII. Switched back to Final Fantasy VIII for a little while, and I did a lot of like fun runs. I currently have the only Final Fantasy VIII Guitar Hero run ever done. If you, we'll get you a link for that somewhere. I completed the entire game using a Guitar Hero controller, which an interesting little tidbit is a controller for a normal Final Fantasy game is supposed to have 16 buttons. A Guitar Hero controller has 12, most of which do the same thing as another button. So I did not have enough buttons to actually play the game, so we had to do a very fun, unique control scheme where almost all of my buttons had multiple uses, which created some very zany, hilarious scenarios in-game. But I actually managed to do it deathless, which is even more impressive. To get it there. We're this close. I emphasize this close because I actually had it, but unfortunately the game froze at one point. We're this close to getting the world record on emulator using a guitar. Everyone else uses a controller, so I really want to get that record on a guitar. But unfortunately, emulators suck and they keep breaking when I'm on world record pace. So, actually, speaking of that, I forgot to bring this one up. I also, until very recently, held the world record for Final Fantasy VIII Remaster on consoles. Very, very recently. Shout out to Zayd. I'm sorry. No, it was Zayden. Shout out to Zayden. They recently beat my time about 2 or 3 weeks ago by 10 seconds, I think. I haven't gone back to play it yet, so shout out to them. And then last that's worth bringing up here is as I left Final Fantasy VIII again to take a break because at this point they hadn't announced a new relay, I came back to Titanfall and I finished out the grind and practice I've been working on for the months prior. And that kind of leads to now. Titanfall, I'm in a similar situation to Final Fantasy VIII where I went from like very average and mediocre to jumping up towards the upper echelon. Now, I'm by no means like a top player for Titanfall yet. But I went from a 131 down to a 125 equivalent, which moves me from like, roughly top 50 to top 20. And that was in 1 week after that practice. So there's still a lot more to come for that. And that puts us into the Titanfall 2 tournament, which is currently going on, which we'll talk about in a little bit. So achievements wise, I mean, we're very close to single digits in both of our games, and that's really, really exciting. But Final Fantasy VIII has been the major focus for a lot of it, and that's where a lot of the fun, wild rides come from.
All right. So all of that, getting top 10 in 2 separate speedrunning games, especially 2 as popular, as in-depth as I know Final Fantasy and Titanfall are, is incredible. But let's step outside of gaming for a little bit. What do you do outside of gaming? Any interests, any hobbies?
Yeah, there's some. So, my pets, I feel like if I'm not streaming or I'm not doing something, I'm usually hanging out with them. You can't see her right now because she's upstairs hanging out with my family, but my dog is a Black Lab, Golden Retriever, Australian Shepherd mix. So she is a very excitable, happy, let's play all the time dog. And if it's dad's day off, it's 12 hours of playing fetch, 12 hours of wrestling, whatever. And I'm down to do that. Both of my pets are the most important thing in my life. So my days off, it's like I said, it's a lot of walking with my dogs, playing with them, playing with my cat. My cat's a lot older, so we don't get to play as much. But yeah, and then outside of my pets, I spend a lot of time reading comic books, reading books about Star Wars. I'm a huge Star Wars nerd. Talk about it a lot. And then doing some charity stuff and researching charities for either the stream or for the Ronald McDonald House. I'm very passionate about the Ronald McDonald House from when I was sick. They did a lot for my family. But I'd be lying to you guys if I didn't tell you I was 90% a nerd. And when I get off of the stream, the rest of my life is I sit down on my chair. There's a chair immediately to the left of this chair that I play games in on that TV. So a lot of it's get up from this chair, sit in that chair, play games on that TV instead. So that's most of it. But if it's not playing with pets, it's gaming or planning the next thing for the stream.
All right. Well, let's move on to the next things for streams. What do you have coming up? What should people keep an eye out for? And what's your goal for streaming? Are you trying to go full time? This just a hobby for you?
Yeah. So I put everything I have into the stream. I stream full time. It is my only job. That's why, throughout my career, some of the growth has been slower because all of my money comes from this. So when I buy a new emote, it's, usually after donation or something like that. My next goal as far as the stream goes is obviously going to be working towards getting partnership. And through that, I've talked about with my community that I'm starting to try to learn more about video stuff so I can start working on YouTube things for stream highlights, for short content pieces, things like that. But unfortunately, video hardware or software is hard to learn. Actual speedrunning goals. Currently, I'm putting every fiber of my being into Titanfall. The original reason I learned Titanfall is because it is very hard to get Final Fantasy VIII into marathons because of its length, unfortunately. Understandably, not all marathons have room for an 8-hour game, so I wanted to learn Titanfall for that. Then I fell in love with Titanfall. So my current goal for Titanfall is to make it out of pools in this tournament, which is very likely. And then my goal after that is to get top 16 in this tournament, which has 80 people in it. It actually just started 2 days ago. I have not had my first match yet. But it started 2 days ago and it's already looking like it's an absolute blast. Over 80 entrants, group stages, 2 people make it out of groups, going to a 40-man bracket. I'm currently second seed in my pool, and my opponent I'm going against, who's also a wonderful member of my community, in a casual for fun race, got a top 10 time against me the other day. So I'm excited to see how this goes, because we've both just kind of popped up and started doing super well. After this race, or after this tournament, as I mentioned, this tournament is going through the 18th of March. I'm going to put everything I have on the table for that, and then I'm going to step away from Titanfall briefly. Well, maybe briefly. Final Fantasy is a long game. And I'm going to shift my focus over to the Final Fantasy series relay that I mentioned earlier. My first exposure to the big time speedrunning world was that relay. But this time coming into the relay, I'm in a very different position. I came into the last relay as, a lower ranked hopeful to get into it. And I'm coming into this relay as one of the top seeds for a position. So I am switching over from Titanfall to Final Fantasy again, with the goal of making and then this time winning the race in the relay. Because even though I made it into the relay last time, I actually got last place in Final Fantasy VIII. That being said, the people I'm running against were really good. It was Luzbelheim and it was WQ, which were currently first and third on the leaderboard to my 6th at the time, I believe. But yeah, I'm really excited for that. As everyone knows, Final Fantasy VIII is my favorite game ever. It's not even close. Half the time I'm playing Titanfall, I'm talking about Final Fantasy VIII still. So I'm really excited to do that. That's going to be in June. So it'll be like 3 months of that grind. And then after that, the goal is actually to bare minimum top 3 Final Fantasy VIII. And to be the third person ever to get an 820 in Final Fantasy VIII. An 830 is currently considered like a top level run in Final Fantasy VIII. That's 8 hours 30 minutes. My PB is 8 hours 26 minutes, which a year ago would have been third place and very close to world record. But this game has had some insane changes over the last year or so. So for Final Fantasy VIII, learn the new step count, top 3 minimum. If I like the step count, we're gonna go for world record, but that depends on how I feel when I learn that. And then I would also like the top 10 Titanfall after that. So those are like the major goals right now. Qualify for relay, win relay, make it out of pools in top 16 in Titanfall. As much as I love at Titanfall and how good I think I am now, I'm just not quite at win that tournament level yet. So my goal is top 16. Final Fantasy VIII, my goal is to win that race and then top 3, get the third ever 820. Only people who've done that are Luzbelheim and Connor Cordelium. Or Connor Cordell, I believe is his current handle. Only other people to ever do that. So I would really love to be the third person on that list.
All right. Well, I think that gives us a pretty good idea. Gives people an idea of what to expect when they come to watch you and why. Are there any final remarks you have? Anything else you want to say?
The big thing mentioned earlier, make sure to take care of yourself. Make sure you listen to your heart when you need it. Make sure you take the time to take that cup of water, that deep breath, whatever you need to do to stay healthy. Just make sure you take care of yourself first. That's always my last remark. All
right. Well, one thing we didn't mention real quick is when do you stream? That's something we didn't go over. When can people tune in?
That is a good point. We didn't talk about that. So I stream Wednesdays through... That's my cat screaming in the background. I stream Wednesdays through Sundays, 4 p.m.-ish to around 10. The reason I say 4 p.m.-ish is that it's basically anywhere from 4 to 4:30 I'll go live. So yeah, every week. I'm only off Monday and Tuesday. Wednesday to Sunday, you can catch me. We do a lot of community stuff on Wednesdays. Not right now because of all these tournaments I'm practicing for, but most of the year we're spending our Wednesdays doing community things and hanging out. But Wednesday to Sunday.
All right. Social medias, where can people find you outside of Twitch? I have your Twitch handle above your video right now, so people can see you there. Twitter, YouTube, anything like that?
Yep. So Twitter, you can find me at Shug _SSB. Very simple. Most of my tweets are talking about things that I think are funny, my pets or my live notifications. It's a fun little Twitter to drop a follow at. My YouTube is basically only used as a recording ground for all my PBs for my games right now, but in the future it will have much more actual content. I'm still just learning that process, but it's also Shug SSB. I don't have an Insta or anything like that that's worth following, but YouTube and Twitter, you can follow me, Shug SSB, at both of them.
All right. And
Shug _SSB at both of them.
Shug _SSB. All right. And it'll be on the screen for everyone, and I will drop links below the video as well so people can just easily access them. Final thing, any last shout outs or mentions you'd like to do?
Yeah. Shout out to you for doing this, for inviting me on, and for giving me the opportunity to talk about my community. That's super awesome. Another shout out that's super worth doing for me is Truth's Advocate. One of my best friends in the last couple of years, from the day I started the stream, he's had my back. And as we have like an entire day on the stream, usually devoted to hanging out together as me and him for the community. So definitely want to shout him out because I would not be where I am in streaming without him. He's a great guy. That's probably all I got, though. The two of you.
I'll drop a link to his Twitch in the description down below as well. So I want to thank Shug for coming through today. It's been absolutely wonderful having you here.
It's been great to be here. I'm happy to have done it.
Thank you so much for watching. I definitely recommend going to check Shug out. Even if you're not a speedrunner, be sure to go on Wednesdays when he does more of a variety of games with his community. If you like what you saw, please feel free to like, share, and subscribe, as it really helps me out. And as I said, this is a video series on up-and-coming streamers, so if you have somebody you'd like for me to check out, please drop a comment down below with who it should be, or you can hit me up on Twitter, or come to my Twitch and let me know. Other than that, have a great day, and see everyone next time.